Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be working on anatomy. I hope you learned something from my process of learning, and if you do, tell me what you learnt in the comments. Without further ado, let's get into the video. From what I've found from people that teach art on YouTube especially, I've found that they teach you to do very gesture-like drawings like the ones I'm doing, instead of what you'd think would be anatomically correct. And the reason for this was because if you draw it all as one, you get more of an idea of how muscles link together and how they create form, instead of getting bogged down in every single little muscle. Because if you get bogged down in every single little muscle, it can often look disjointed as the muscles don't flow into each other and connect how they do in real life. So what I'm doing here is pretty much just getting a rough form and rough outline for a character, and then I'm going in and refining it using some of the stuff I learnt from last video in gesture, and just trying to refine the muscle forms for the characters, instead of going in and doing separate muscles. Like, there are a bunch of muscles in the thigh, in the calves and in the arms, but you don't want to get bogged down to start with in those. You just want to do the main form and main outline of what the muscles look like. One thing that I was doing with most of my drawings once I'd got them finished to be, was I would move them over my reference image just to check that I had the rough proportions correct and also the gesture correct, and I found that that really helped in getting everything that I needed to get into each drawing. I did each set of drawings from each reference on either a different day or just at different times, so that I wasn't just doing an overload of information at one time, and I sort of spread it out over a couple of days. And I think you can see there is a decent amount of improvement, because one thing that I was improving is just going with it and just getting the form down on the page first, instead of getting bogged down in trying to make everything look good as I go. And this really helped in making the entire finished product look much better, because I didn't spend time getting things to look perfect when it's not in the context of the rest of the body. Those things that did look good before I finished the rest of the body, then don't look as good, might be sort of a slightly odd angle when compared to the legs or something like that. So I was trying to improve just doing the whole body first, and then going in and resizing things and editing things and just generally cleaning up the drawing. And while I was doing this, one thing that I found that I did in most drawings was, when I started with the head, which I did in pretty much all of them, I would make everything based on head, but then as I went down the drawing, everything else would become bigger. So I'd often have to make the head larger in proportion, and I'd also usually make the legs longer than they are in the reference, and I guess this was just the tendency that I have, and I don't think it's too bad because usually they're not oversized. So as you can see, I'm again just moving my drawing over my reference image to see where I've gone wrong and where I can improve things, like again the head size in proportion to the rest of the body. Then I just go in and add some general muscles, like the back muscles. I think it's called the latimus dorsi, the ones that go around the side. But then I decide that I'm going to try putting clothes on it to see how that would work. And when I was drawing this reference in particular, I had a sort of Fred Astaire type dancer in mind, with a tailcoat and a top hat. So that's what I drew over this, and I thought it worked really, really well, and I quite like how it turned out. So that was good. I'm pretty much just filling in sort of the blanks that are in my mind to show you guys, and just to make it give a little more life to the gesture drawings instead of just being gesture drawings. This last reference image taught me two main things about anatomy and also something else. And those were how muscles work when they're flexed to a very high extent. As you can see, she's got her leg way up above her head, and you can see her back and her thighs also they just flex so much, and you have to know how to link that all together, which is why I did just the main form instead of getting bogged down in muscles, because when muscles flex they change shape. So if you just draw the main form, you get that changed shape, and then you can fit the muscles in over that. And also it taught me about the center of mass. As you can see in the reference, the dancer's head there's a vertical line all the way down to her toe, and that's why she doesn't fall over. But in mine, the line between her head and her toes is not in the center, and it's not vertical either. In the reference, it's in the center from her head to her toe, and it's vertical. But in mine, the center of mass would be over the base of her toe, so she would fall over. I'm also drawing in a red pen, or a red color, because I just think it stood out from both the black of the reference images and the white of the background, so that's why I did that, to make it much clearer. For this last reference image, I decided to change up what I was doing, and instead of using a dancer as a reference, I decided to use someone's drawing that had lots more flowy clothes on them, so it was harder to see the actual anatomy, as a challenge to see if I could figure out where everything would go without actually having to see it. This was very difficult. As you can see in the first image, I'm trying to work out the angle of the chest and the angle of the hips in relation to the feet, so I know how the legs are angled, where everything is sort of in relation to forward and back, so what's in the front and what's in the back. As you can see, they're kind of flat, like the back leg starts to go back, but then it's kind of flat with the front leg when it gets to the bottom, so that was kind of odd. So instead of just repeating what I did in the first drawing, which I was going to again in the second one, I decided first to just quickly sketch over the reference in the red pen, just to get a clear idea of where everything is. And that made it so much easier to do, because then I knew where everything was. It just made it easier, not even using the sketch that I did, just the act of deciding where everything goes on the image for my drawing just made it so much easier to draw, and made it so much easier to see where everything was. And in the end, I think this turned out pretty well. I then go over in black, just drawing some sort of clothes and swords again, but I think it turned out pretty well. If you liked this episode, and if you have any suggestions for other episodes, make sure to leave a like, and then go comment what you want to see me to work on. If you've got any questions about what I've done today, make sure to leave it in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more of these videos coming in the next week, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.